Hey, good evening, guys. How's it going? Back with another Bible reading. Let's go ahead and do what we normally do. Make sure our audio, our video, all our connections are running good. Cool, cool. May take a second to catch up, but let's go ahead and test my audio real quick. Just a moment. Alright, looks like everything's good, so we're ready to start up. And then today, so far it looks like we're going through at a pretty leisurely pace, doing kind of 2 chapters a day. I think that's going pretty fine for now. We'll kind of see where we go with this. But right now, we're going back with Genesis 3, the temptation and the fall of man. Basically, what started all of this mess. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden. But of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. The serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die, for God doth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called out unto Adam, and said unto them, Where art thou? And he said, I heard thy voice in thy garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou wast naked? Hast thou eaten of the tree, whereof I commanded thee that thou shalt not eat? And the man said, The woman who thou gavest to me, to be with me, she gave me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent beguiled me, and I did eat. And the Lord God said unto the serpent, Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly thou shalt go, and dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall be bruised by thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast hearkened unto the voice of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree, of which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it. Cursed is the ground for thy sake, and sorrow shalt thou eat of it all the days of thy life. Thorns and also thistles shall it bring forth to thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken. For dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she was the mother of all living. Unto Adam also and to his wife did the Lord God make coats of skins, and clothe them. And the Lord God said, Behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. And now, lest he put forth his hand, and take also the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. Therefore the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden, to till the ground from whence he was taken. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way, to keep the way of the tree of life. This one's also interesting. I know it's kind of tough to read too. I don't even know which translation I kind of had the default one up. It makes it tough. But if you kind of take it by individual word, it's not too difficult to kind of figure out. But what's interesting here and things that I've noticed, like a lot of people kind of teach and mention. For example, when God calls out, Adam and said out to him, "Where art thou?" It's not because God doesn't know where he is. Like, obviously he does. But all these things are different kind of tests, right? Like, think like a parent to a child. When they've done something wrong and they're like hiding in a corner, you're like, "David, where are you? What did you do?" Like, you try to give them a chance to own up to it. And what's interesting is you notice, like, everybody gets punished. Nobody just pushes off blame. But what does Adam say? Does he say, "I've sinned against you, forgive me," or I've messed up, or I did bad, or I did what you told me not to? No, he's like, look at the woman you gave me. He tries to push it off on his wife and tries to blame God for it. Then God turns to the woman, and does he blame her immediately? No, he says, "Why did you do this?" And then she immediately goes to blame the serpent. It's very interesting. A lot of people mention that none of them really take ownership. None of them really own up to the sin that they did and actually kind of take account into that. So I am curious. I think it's a very good point some people bring it up. I am curious on how different, obviously, God knew what we would do, but I'm curious on if the situation would be different if they had acted differently. Obviously, it was still the sin led to the fall of man would have still happened, but I do wonder how differently that would have happened. And then another thing a lot of people like to definitely get mad at Adam for is now, like, this is the only reason why hard work is actually hard work. Why it's actually tough on us and not enjoyable. But I do find this really interesting. Very much the start, like, kind of the beginning marker of man, really. Alright. And that was Genesis 3, so let's go ahead and go to 4. Okay, so this is the King James Version. I don't think so. I think most translations of the Bible are good when I'm talking about normal translations, not any obvious ones like, obviously the Mormon translation, that's a completely different religion, you know what I mean, stuff like that. The only one I would say that I've heard it's been a minute is the Passion Translation isn't very good. A lot of the words that they use, they're a little bit too lenient with. But aside from that, I think most of the translations are pretty decent. So if you guys want me to switch to any other one, definitely let me know. I'm more than happy to switch around or check a few different ones out. So, Genesis 4, Cain murders Abel. And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived, and bare Cain, and said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. And she again bare his brother Abel. And Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground. And in process of time it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. And Abel, he also brought of the firstlings of his flock, and of the fat thereof. And the Lord had respect unto Abel and to his offering. But unto Cain and to his offering he had not respect. And Cain was very wroth, and his countenance fell. And the Lord said unto Cain, Why art thou wroth? And why is thy countenance fallen? If thou doest well, shall thou not be accepted? And if thou doest not well, sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire, and thou shalt rule over him. And this is very interesting, and something that I actually really love about this. I think there's so many people, and I kind of get it at first glance, but there's so many people who kind of like jump to conclusions about God and how he treats people. But if you look at simple things like this before anything happens, why are you wroth? Like, you know what I mean? Why are you angry? Why are you upset? If you do well, then won't you be accepted? He's literally saying there's something wrong with, what you're doing that I want you to see. And you need to kind of reflect, right? Because here, Abel's giving, the firstborns, like the top notch, like his best, basically. Whereas Cain, likely in this situation, isn't giving, like, the first of his crops, right? It's kind of like that thing where there was at one point, I was kind of looking up into tithing and recommendations on that, because I do want to be better about that, and I do kind of want to know, like, when to do that. And there's actually certain passages that mention it's 10%, but certain passages that also mention that you give your increase, like 100% of the first increase. So basically, say I ended up getting, a new property and I'm making like $3,400 a month from it, right? That's like a new huge bit of cash flow. The first month, you know what I mean? God blessed me with this money. So I'm going to give him all 3,400 the first month. That's like, the first fruits, right? And then I'll give him 10% after that. But notice here, though, with Cain, it's not even like he's saying, you're not good enough or this, that, whatever. He's just saying, hey, look, if you do well, if you do what you know you should do, won't you be accepted? And I think a lot of us can really struggle with this, honestly, at not wanting to kind of take ownership. And then also mentioning sin lieth at the door, and unto thee shall be his desire. Like, sin's always waiting for us. And it's something that we have to be aware of. Verse 8. And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and slew him. And the Lord said unto Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said unto the Lord, My punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid, and I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond in the earth. And it shall come to pass that every one that findeth me shall slay me. And the Lord said unto him, Therefore whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. The family of Cain. And Cain went out from the presence of the Lord, and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived, and bare Enoch. And he builded a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his own son, Enoch. And unto Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begat Mehuel, and Mehuel begat Methuselah, and Methuselah begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives. The name of the one was Ada, and the name of the other was Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal. He was the father of such as dwell in tents, and of such have cattle. And his brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all such as handle the harp and organ. And Zillah, she also bare Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every artificer in brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said unto his wives, Ada and Zillah, hear my voice, ye wives of Lamech. Hearken unto my speech, for I have slain a man to my wounding, and a young man to my hurt. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, truly Lamech 70 and sevenfold. A new son. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bare a son, and called his name Seth. For God, said she, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, who Cain slew. And Seth said to him, and to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began man to call upon the name of the Lord. I will go a little bit, I think actually that's the end. I just want to make sure that's the end of that for chapter 5. Obviously it would make sense, but... Oh, it didn't switch. Okay. And then that's going to be for next week. So, yeah, overall, we've had a good account. God's creation of the earth. Kind of had a broad description and then went more into detail, talking about Adam and Eve. We went over the first sin of the apple, the enemy, the serpent, who was also cursed, after manipulating and tricking Eve into eating, and then her bringing Adam to do the same. And the curse separated us from God. That's the biggest thing, honestly. And that's what we're waiting for Jesus to come back for, to be able to have, him as that bridge to reunite us when that day does come. Then after that, they set out. They had Cain and Abel. Abel did really well in God's eyes. He gave his, first fruits in terms of his cattle and so on. Cain did not. And instead of owning up to why God was not happy with, his offerings, he grew jealous. And he ended up killing his brother. And God cursed him for that. And then it went over a bit of the lineage of Cain. And then it also talked a little bit about Seth. So after all that, we kind of went back a little bit. And then Adam and Eve had another child named Seth. And it's looking like we're going to be going a bit into the generations of Adam on the next one next week and going into that. But so far, so interesting. A lot of setup. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I really look forward to the next one, and I'll